Hey, what's going on, guys? I wanted to do another video talking about spicing up your build, and this time I wanted to focus on the god Hades, who was previously a support character, kind of a supporty mage, and now is just strictly a mage. And this change didn't really do anything. He's still very, very tanky, and he can do really well in the mid lane and in the solo lane. I think he's a little bit better in the solo lane. The only problem with that is in season 3 you're seeing a lot of tanky bruisers like Ravana and Osiris and Amaterasu. They're kind of more popular, so they're harassing the mages. So mages are kind of taking a step back in the solo lane a little bit in this season, I've noticed. So Hades right now seems to be more popular in mid. Um, but again, his stats didn't change after his role changed from support to mage. He is exactly the same character as he was, so I think there is a certain way that Hades should be played, and people don't really play him that way. And that way is to kind of focus on the tanky aspects of him. He is definitely now the tankiest mage in the game by far, and I think that kind of focusing his build around that might be a really good idea. Of course, you can also just make him full damage, and that'll be great. He'll do a great job, and I think that build might be actually a little bit better than the build I'm gonna talk about today. But I think this build that I'm going to go over has a lot of merit, and I think that it could be really useful. And it's really centered around making his ultimate as useful for his team as possible. So it's going to be a little bit of a tanky build. It's going to be starting off with actually Warlock Sash. We're going to be doing the tier 1 of Warlock Sash, which is Uncommon Sash. Now, Season 3 brought back the original Doom Orb, which you're seeing everyone is crazy about. Literally, there isn't a mage build out there right now that doesn't have Doom Orb in it, and I actually hate that because I don't think any role should have a specific build just for it. And I don't think there should be just one item that every god gets. I don't really like that. So I think this kind of video where I'm talking about, spicing up your Hades build, I'm going to be looking at other items besides Doomor because I don't think you should have to just rely on Doomor for every mage. I think it's boring. So the point of this video, and if you watch the video I had on Geb, is to give you some other ideas about items that maybe aren't being used right now, but are still really good and really strong. Warlock Sash, for instance, is an item that I used throughout Season 2, and I think is still extremely strong. And while it doesn't give you as much magical power with the stacks compared to Doom Orb, it does give you some magical power, and it also gives you health. So if you're looking at a tanky mage like Hades, I think Warlock Sash is actually very, very strong on him. So that's why I'm going to be building, and you want to get those stacks up early. So we can look at Warlock Sash in the middle there. The stats for it: you get 50 magical power, 300 health, 400 mana, and you permanently gain plus 3 health and plus zero point 0.6 magical power for each stack. And you get 5 stacks for God Kill and 1 stack for Mini Kill, and you can get up to 100 stacks on this. So that's a lot. I mean, it's something that you really. I mean, it's great on Hades, and I don't see why people don't use it more. Um, I think it actually has more worth than Doom Orb, but you're seeing just Doom Orb kind of take over every mage, and because people just want damage, and that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with just building a huge damage mage at all. That's probably going to win you more games, but I think, there is some strategic use for Warlock Sash on a Hades. So I'm going to look at that, and so that this is going to be my starter items. So we'll start with Uncommon Sash, and then we'll go into Boots 1, um, and we're gonna go Boots of the Magi, of course, because that's really the only one that you should be using on any mage, in my opinion. And then for for pots, I actually on Hades like to go 3 mana pots and then 1 health pot because he's tanky. You don't really need the health as much, but I do like to have the 3 mana pots. It helps him a lot. He clears the way. He almost clears the wave like at level 5 by himself. So you're gonna be using a lot of abilities, and you're gonna be needing the extra mana pots, and then that'll leave you with 200 gold this start. And so, going back into the core of the build, we're going to look to finish off Shoes of the Magi first, and then go right into um, the Warlock Sash. And again, once if you can get this off early, you could even rush this before boots if you want. The only problem is it's kind of expensive. It's 2650 gold, so you're going to be waiting a lot with it. So it's good, I think, to get the shoes off right away. You don't want to delay your build. I think that's important. At the same time, try to get Warlock Sash, second item. Don't delay it past that, because you want to start getting those stacks as soon as possible, and you want to start making him extremely tanky. That's what this build is. It's going to be making him tanky. And the reason that I'm focusing on his tankiness in this build is to help him survive his ultimate and to make his ultimate as strong as possible. Because when he ults and he's this huge target, everyone on the enemy team is going to be trying to attack him. So he's going to be getting a lot of attention. And the more attention you can take off the other gods in your team while you're ulting as Hades, the more damage that they can get off safely. So I think that it's important for him to be tanky and to kind of soak up as much damage as possible, and that's what this build is going to try to accomplish. So after Warlock Sash, we're actually going to go into something. We're going to be going into some interesting items after this. Again, this is to... I'm going to get this out of here. This is to make him tanky and to give him a lot of protections as well. So after this, we're going to go into Breastplate of Valor. So for most mages, you might go into Chronos Pendant instead. There are some builds right now that are using Breastplate of Valor instead of Chronos Pendant for the CDR. I think that Breastplate is great. It gives you that little bit of tankiness for, let's say you're pretty weak, maybe a squishy mage. You might want Breastplate just to kind of help you against those aggressive soul laners like Ravana or Osiris. You don't want to be getting beat up by those guys. So I think Breastplate is actually a good item to use for mages. After that, we're going to go into actually another interesting item. Doesn't get used that often either, and it's Void Stone. So this again is going to be focused almost entirely around maximizing the worth of Hades' ult. So this gives you 40 magical power, 50 magical protections, and it reduces the magical protection of enemies within 55 units by 20. So if you think about it, if you're ulting, you're going to be stripping their magical protections while you're ulting, so that's going to be doing more damage. And you're also going to be protected. You're going to have 50 magical protection from anyone who's attacking you. So that's going to make you even more tanky. It's also going to give you a little bit of extra magical power. Because even though this is a tankier build for Hades, he does need the magical power. So I think this item is a good mix for that. So that's going to be our fourth item. After that, after Void Stone, we are going to get very interesting. And we're going to be using Mantle of Discord. Now this is another item that's going to be focused mainly on Hades' ult. So the strategy behind this item, and if you look at the passive, if you're not familiar with it, if you take damage below 30% health, you unleash a shockwave that stuns all enemies within range of 20 units for 1 second, and you gain CC immunity for 1 second. And this cannot trigger once every 90 seconds. So if you have these 4 items online, you're going to be pretty tanky. So it might not be very likely that you're going to get below 30% health. It's likely you won't be below 30% health until you ult. Once you ult, they might do a lot of damage to you, and you might get below that benchmark of 30%. So if you can wait 90 seconds before getting below 30% health, and then use your ults, and then if you can strategically ult so that you go below 30% health, then while you're ulting, you are going to stun everyone who is in your ultimate, and that's just going to make them stuck even longer in their ultimate. Let's say they're about to beads out of it, you can stun them, and they could also beads out of that, but let's say they don't have beads, you can stun them and ensure that they stay in your ultimates for even longer. So that's why I think this is a really, really strong item on him, and I think it's new. It's definitely not something that I've seen anyone use on him, but I think that it could be really, really useful for his ultimate. It's just kind of making the enemy team stay in your ultimate for even longer, which I think is very useful. Now, the issue with this is it's an expensive item, 3,100, so you're going to have to be, farming a lot with him. Luckily, Hades is very good at farming. He can clear the wave pretty well. You're going to have not a great amount of magical power at this point in the game, and you're not going to at any point, really, but you will be clearing the wave proficiently at this time in the game. So you will be able to farm. So farm with this build, you're not going to have enough magical power, so farm, so that you can get this item online as quickly as possible. Now, the last item that we're going to look at is going to be Spear of Desolation. So now, there's a couple things that are wrong with this build up until this item. So you'll notice magical power, there isn't much. There's a lot of defense, there's a lot of protections, there's a nice little CC ability, but there's not a lot of damage, and there's no penetration. Now penetration is huge in Smite, especially with the changes in Season 3. There's kind of been a bigger focus on protections, especially with some of the new items. You know, Mantle of Discord has a lot of protections on it, so penetration is really important. And this build is unfortunately not going to get the penetration until your last item. So you might hit the 30 or 40 minute mark before you're able to get this item online. So that is an issue with the build, but at the same time, I think that's not the point. The point of the build is for him to last a long time while he's ulting, and for him to kill people once you get the Mantle of Discord online, and to basically get in their faces and kind of be, even though he's now a mage, he still can kind of play that supporty type role. So I think that's what this build is trying to accomplish. And then once you get this item online, you're going to be having a lot of magical power, a lot of magical penetration, and you may not be able to max your CDR, but now you're going to have a passive that will allow you to get all of your abilities back. And if you are killing enemy gods with your ultimate, then that'll reduce your all your cooldowns by 8 seconds, so that means you can chase after your ultimate and get more kills with the rest of your abilities. So that's kind of my unconventional build for Hades. Again, I haven't seen anyone use this type of build before. I think that the items have a good mix, and again, this is going to be a tankier type of Hades that you're playing with, but I think that it definitely has a use. And you know, it's again focused mainly around his ultimate, which is his biggest ability. So you know, I don't think that's a bad thing. And so lastly, just to look at his relics, again, I think Curse is huge on Hades because of his ultimate. So let's say they beads out of your ultimate, you can still Curse right after you ult, and that'll slow their movement speed. So you're maximizing the amount of time that they're taking damage from your ultimate. I think Curse is huge on Hades. Absolutely should buy Curse. Other than that, you might want to get Sanctuary. Again, if you're in your ult and people are attacking you and you need to Aegis, you can do that. And then beads if you need to. I like Sunder. I think Sunder is very strong. People seem to be liking it a little bit more recently. It's kind of like a troll pick relic at the moment, but I think it does a lot of damage, and they just reduced the cooldowns in the last patch, or the activate time for it, so that's good. And yeah, that's it. Let me know what you think about the builds. What do you build on Hades? I definitely would want to hear what you guys are doing. If Do More works for you, you know, that's great. I think that's, you know, definitely a good build, but you know, might be good to try something else. I think Warlock Sash is kind of built for Hades, so that's why I'm including it in this build. But yeah, if you have any questions, if you have any other builds or gods that you kind of are interested in talking about, let me know in the comments, and I thank you very much for watching. Okay, bye-bye.